For decades, we have been given the same nutritional marching orders, right? It's been drilled into us since we were kids.
Eat your greens.
Exactly. Eat your greens. Load up on salad. And the thinking has always been, the more vegetables you eat, the better off you are. Better heart health, longer life.
For the most part, for the vast majority of your life, that advice is fundamentally sound. Vegetables are nutritional powerhouses. There's no debating that. But here's the critical piece that the sources we looked at really highlight. After you cross the age of, say, 60, your internal body chemistry, it just fundamentally changes.
It's not the same machine it was at 30.
Not at all. The way your kidneys filter, the elasticity of your blood vessels, and maybe most importantly, how your metabolism deals with certain powerful compounds in food. It's a different ballgame.
And that's where this gets serious. According to the research we've unpacked, that exact physiological shift can turn some of these super healthy choices into quiet threats. We're focusing on a vegetable that, 99% of seniors eat all the time, thinking it's great for them, but it could actually be silently contributing to blood clots and strokes if it's consumed the wrong way.
And it sounds alarming, I know. But we have to be clear. The risk isn't that the food has suddenly become toxic.
Right.
The risk is all about context. It's about how the aging body processes these potent natural compounds. And, maybe even more dangerously, how these foods interfere with really common prescription medications.
Things like blood thinners or blood pressure meds.
Exactly those.
So our mission in this deep dive is to get into this material, reveal exactly which vegetables carry these hidden risks, and explain the specific biochemical reasons why, and most importantly, lay out the rules, the non-negotiable rules about timing, portions, and consistency that can turn these foods from a risk back into an ally. This is about being informed, not afraid. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We have to start with the biggest, most dramatic example, spinach. Along with its cousins, kale and broccoli, these are the titans of the superfood world, packed with iron, fiber, antioxidants. Doctors are always telling you to eat more, so... What's the silent threat hiding in those green leaves?
The primary biochemical risk for millions of people is vitamin K.
Which we need, right? For bone health and calcium absorption.
Oh, absolutely. It's essential. But its most critical role is in regulating blood clotting. It specifically activates these 4 key proteins in your liver that are designed to help your blood form a clot when you get hurt.
It's like your body's natural safety plug.
That's a great way to put it. The risk comes from the sheer quantity of vitamin K combined with medication.
Okay, so how much are we talking about?
Well, a single cup of cooked spinach has upwards of 800 micrograms of vitamin K.
Wow.
That's 6 times the necessary daily amount for a senior. And kale can be even higher.
And for anyone over 60 taking a blood thinner, an anticoagulant like warfarin, which a ton of people are on, this is where the conflict becomes dangerous.
Absolutely. Warfarin works by actively blocking vitamin K's function. It's designed to keep your blood thin to prevent a stroke. So when you suddenly flood your system with high or inconsistent amounts of vitamin K,
you're basically fighting your own medication.
you are playing tug of war with your own heart health. Exactly. The result is that the medication's effectiveness just fussed. It fluctuates wildly.
And that's measured by the INR level, right?
Correct. When your INR is too low because you ate too much vitamin K, your blood gets thicker and stickier than it should be. That puts you at a high immediate risk for a stroke.
Oh, the other way.
If your INR is too high, meaning you suddenly cut out all vitamin K, your blood is too thin, and then you risk a major internal hemorrhage, a bleed in the brain. It's a razor's edge.
The sources had a really powerful case study on this. Can you walk us through that story of the 72-year-old patient? The one who thought she was doing everything right.
Yes, that case was a perfect illustration. This 72-year-old woman, very vibrant, kept coming in for tests, and her INR results were all over the map. Unpredictable.
And no one knew why.
For a while, no. Then it turned out she'd started a new healthy habit. A massive spinach and kale smoothie every single morning. That huge daily surge of vitamin K was actively sabotaging her medication.
So what happened?
Once her doctor figured it out, they worked together to switch her to lower vitamin K vegetables. Her INR levels stabilized in 2 weeks. It was that direct.
So what other greens fall into this high vitamin K group, besides spinach and kale?
You're looking at collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, also Brussels sprouts, broccoli, and cabbage.
So should people just avoid them?
No. And this is the key takeaway. The latest studies actually show that consistency is more important than avoidance.
What does that mean exactly?
Seniors who kept a steady, moderate intake, say the same amount every week, had much better control than those who tried to cut out vitamin K entirely and then, had a big salad on the weekend.
So no chaotic extremes, just keep it steady.
That's the goal. A steady, moderate intake lets the medication work predictably.
Okay, so that brings us to another critical piece of this puzzle. Timing. It's not just what you eat, but when you eat it. And this is where things get really interesting. Because some of these risks only pop up if you eat the food at the wrong time of day.
Right, especially near bedtime. Let's go back to spinach, but look at a completely different chemical risk. Oxalates.
Oxalates. Okay.
Spinach is packed with these natural compounds, and oxalates are known to chemically bind to minerals inside the body, especially calcium. When you're younger, your kidneys are really efficient filters. They just process this stuff and get rid of it, no problem.
But after 60, that system slows down.
It slows way down. Kidney function declines, blood vessels get stiffer, and a lot of older adults are taking extra calcium or vitamin D for their bones.
Ah, so you're adding more calcium to the mix.
Exactly. So you have oxalates meeting excess calcium in a slow-moving system. They can form these hard microcrystals. The researchers describe them as being like tiny grains of sand that can build up and narrow the delicate blood vessels in the brain.
And this is happening when circulation is at its slowest, when you're resting or sleeping. I think the case of Mr. Ernesto Ramirez really brings this home.
It does. Mr. Ramirez, he was a 74-year-old professor, and he had this perfect storm in his evening routine that led to a microstroke.
What was he doing?
Every night, he'd have a huge fresh spinach salad with white cheese and a glass of warm milk right before bed, all while taking his daily calcium supplements for osteoporosis.
Wow. So he was just flooding his system with both things at once.
At the worst possible time. He was creating the perfect conditions for that microcrystal buildup while he slept.
So the solution here is about timing and combination.
Correct. Eat your spinach in the morning or midday when your system is active, and this is critical. Absolutely avoid pairing large amounts of spinach with calcium-rich foods like dairy, cheese, or supplements in the same meal, especially at night.
All right, let's pivot to another nighttime offender. Something that seems so harmless. Raw carrots and corn. A crunchy evening snack.
In the aging metabolic system, these two behave less like vegetables and more like concentrated starch. Raw carrots digest incredibly fast,
So the natural sugars in them hit your bloodstream really quickly.
almost instantly.
Yeah.
It causes a big blood glucose spike.
But why is that spike so much more dangerous at night? During the day, you just burn that energy off.
Because of what comes next. The crash. In older adults, insulin response is often a bit slower. So that rapid spike is followed by what's called nocturnal hypoglycemia, a sudden, deep drop in blood sugar while you're asleep.
And the body doesn't like that.
The body panics. It interprets that drop as a life-threatening crisis, like it's starving.
It's a full-on biological panic response.
It is. The body releases a flood of powerful stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol overnight. These hormones are designed to save you, to mobilize sugar, but they also violently tense up your blood vessels. The vessel walls constrict, pressure shoots up.
And in arteries that are already a bit stiff from age.
You're multiplying the risk of a silent stroke or a clot while you're completely unaware of sleeping in your bed.
So that innocent little snack is triggering a fight-or-flight response.
That's precisely what it's doing. The mitigation is simple. Save raw carrots and corn for daytime hours, never as a late-night snack, and always pair them with a protein or a healthy fat like hummus, some nuts, avocado, to slow that sugar absorption way down.
Let's move on to vegetables that mess with your fluid balance and acidity, the ones that affect blood flow through really simple dehydration.
Right, now we're talking about natural diuretics. The big ones are asparagus and romaine lettuce.
Okay.
They both cause rapid water loss through urination. Now, for younger people, this is no big deal. They just drink more water. But after 60, two things happen. Your sense of thirst decreases, and your kidneys are less efficient at regulating fluid.
So it's easy to become mildly dehydrated without even realizing it.
Very easy. And when your blood volume drops,
Even a little bit. Blood physically gets thicker.
it literally sickens.
Yeah.
It's like your heart is trying to push thick syrup through a straw instead of water. Moving thick blood through arteries that are already stiff or narrowed dramatically increases clotting risk.
And this is especially dangerous at night.
Yes, when your circulation naturally slows down and your body is already heading towards dehydration from not drinking for 8 hours.
So that big romaine salad before bed is a bad idea.
It's not ideal. Enjoy it for lunch. If you have to have it at night, Be proactive, have a big glass of water with it, and maybe add some hydrating foods like cucumber or melon to the meal to counteract that diuretic effect.
All right, let's talk about tomatoes. This one surprises a lot of people because we always hear about lycopene and heart health, but they can cause symptoms that actually mimic a stroke. Why is that?
Tomatoes are part of the nightshade family, and nightshades are known for containing certain compounds, solanine, histamine, tyramine, that can affect nerve or muscle function in some people.
And in excess, they can cause problems.
In excess, they can cause imbalances. Histamine, for example, can make brain vessels dilate or constrict, which can cause sudden headaches or dizziness. Tyramine is known to raise blood pressure. And then there's the acidity.
Silent acid reflux.
Exactly, especially when you're lying down at night. That internal irritation can trigger a low-level adrenaline release, which raises your blood pressure when your body should be calming down.
So it's a triple threat: vessel constriction, pressure spikes, and chemical irritation.
And we also have to consider medications again. Tomatoes are high in potassium. Normally, that's good. But if you're on certain blood pressure meds, like ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, too much potassium can cause problems, dizziness, even heart rhythm issues.
So what's the safe way to eat tomatoes?
The main thing is to avoid heavy tomato-based meals at night. No thick sauces or big bowls of tomato soup before bed, and always cook them. Heat significantly reduces compounds like solanine.
Okay, let's look at the hidden agents. The flavor enhancers in processed foods, where the danger is really in the quantity or preparation. Garlic and onions, they're heart health champions, but they carry a specific risk with medication.
They do. Garlic contains allicin, a very potent natural anticoagulant. Onions have quercetin, which relaxes and lightens blood vessels. It's like a mild, natural blood pressure medication.
So if you're already on prescription blood thinners or antihypertensives,
You dangerously amplify the effects. You can make your blood too thin, which raises the risk of a hemorrhage. Or if the vasodilation is too strong, your blood pressure could drop too low, which actually reduces oxygen to the brain. Very risky overnight.
so we need to treat them more like a medicine.
Exactly. Treat raw garlic like a supplement. Maybe alternate days or cook at heat really reduces its potency. And avoid heavy raw onion meals at night. If you're taking concentrated garlic capsules, you absolutely have to talk to your doctor.
Now let's hit the big one, the invisible salt, the danger hiding in processed vegetables that seem totally harmless.
This is a huge risk area for seniors. I'm talking about things like pickled vegetables, canned tomato products, even healthy-sounding fermented foods like kimchi or sauerkraut.
The sodium load is just off the charts.
It's enormous. It's used for preservation and flavor, but it causes a rapid, acute spike in blood pressure. A cup of kimchi can have 400 to 600 milligrams of sodium. Canned vegetable soup can easily hit 1,000 milligrams.
That's half your daily limit in a side dish.
Right, and when that sodium spike hits a system with stiff, inflexible arteries, which is very common after 60, that sudden pressure massively increases the risk of a hemorrhagic stroke where a vessel just bursts.
And what's the simple, actionable fix for canned goods?
It's so easy. Choose low-sodium versions, obviously.
Yeah.
But crucially, just drain and rinse canned vegetables under running water for about a minute. That one simple act can cut the sodium by almost half. It's a huge difference.
We spend a lot of time on the risks, which is necessary. But let's shift to empowerment. This isn't about fear, it's about making smart swaps. So what should people be eating more of?
Let's focus on the low vitamin K, low-risk options. Cucumbers are fantastic. They're incredibly hydrating, low in K, and that water content helps thin the blood naturally. Hydration is probably the most overlooked anti-clotting tool we have after 60.
What about some alternatives to those dark, leafy greens?
Bell peppers, red, yellow, orange, they're superb. They're loaded with vitamin C, which helps protect brittle vessel walls, and they have almost no vitamin K.
Yeah.
Eggplant and squash are also great. Low K, high in fiber, which helps with cholesterol and blood sugar.
And a quick note on cooking oils.
Yes, good point. Swap out high vitamin K oils like soybean or canola oil for olive oil. It's much lower in K and full of those good monounsaturated fats that protect your vessels.
Okay, let's nail down the core actionable rules that you can start using right now. Rule 1.
Hydration. Your blood is about 50% water. Aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. Dehydration makes your blood thick and sluggish.
Rule 2 is about the medication.
Consistency. If you're on warfarin, keep your vitamin K intake steady. Don't binge on kale one day and have none the next. Predictability is key.
Rule 3 is about the clock.
Timing. Keep those quick digesting or diuretic veggies. Raw carrots, corn, romaine, asparagus for daytime. Let your active metabolism handle them. before the circulatory slowdown of sleep.
Rule 4 is physical.
Movement. And this isn't about running a marathon. Just stand up and move every 30 minutes. If you're watching TV, walk around during the commercials. It stops blood from pooling in your legs, which is a major precursor to clots.
And finally, a conversation with your doctor that might just eliminate this whole issue for some people.
Absolutely. If you are struggling with the strict diet that warfarin requires, check your medications. There are newer blood thinners. They have names like rivaroxaban, apixaban, that do not interact with vitamin K at all.
So you can eat a much healthier, less restrictive diet.
Exactly. Ask your doctor if one of those newer alternatives could be right for you.
This central idea here is really transformative. Your body at 60 requires you to think differently, more strategically, about food. This knowledge is power. You can still enjoy all these great vegetables, but you have to do it mindfully.
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's clear food isn't inherently good or bad. It's just sometimes poorly combined or eaten in the wrong context for an aging body. Health after 60 is all about balance and respecting how much your internal systems have changed.
That really reframes everything. We focused a lot today on what's happening inside your body. Blood thickness, sugar spikes, vessel constriction, all the things that can lead to an acute event. But let's leave you with a final thought to chew on. The sources kept mentioning that chronic low-level inflammation is a massive driver for all this vessel damage. We've talked about food, but what other seemingly healthy everyday habits might you have, totally unrelated to your diet, that could be silently contributing to that chronic inflammation, making your arteries stiffer and your blood stickier? Something for you to mull over and explore further. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.